Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who once again will be talking about Action Bronson and his album Cocodrillo Turbo. So, the last album I reviewed is the first time I've ever actually listened to Action Bronson. As you may or may not know, I took a little break from new music between 2002 and 2018. So, that was my first experience, and I really came to love it. I watched his reality show, which I loved even more. My wife is Balkan, and Action Bronson's origins are also Balkan. He's Albanian, my wife is Serbian, but there's still a lot of cultural crossover, especially with food, which I watched a lot of his cooking show with my wife, and she really appreciated it. So I really like Action Bronson as a voice, as a presence in our culture, and I was able to pick that up just from that one album. So the last album was Only for Dolphins. And then this album is Cocodrillo Turbo, obviously some kind of multiple series of references to crocodiles. The album cover features a crocodile. So I was trying to think, like what's he doing here? Is this some just like haphazard menagerie? Why is he doing this? Why is he talking about all these animals? And I realized, that there's the great issue with hip-hop, which is you have to say something, right? You have to have something to say. And some rappers talk about their lives, some invent lives, some rap just about sex, some rap just about drugs, some rap just about politics, some rap about everything all mixed up, right? It's the problem of all artists is they have to say something, but rap artists just have to say a lot more because there's a lot more words in there. So I was on the way, I was driving into work. You can tell I'm not at my home, I'm at work. I have a lot of oral interviews to give today. And I realized this one line jumped out to me, and it jumped out to me for a few reasons. He says in one of the songs, "Jump out the grave like altered beast." Now, first of all, that just puts me in a time and a place, because I'm a little bit older than him, but I'm roughly his generation, and especially when you make reference to Altered Beast, that's a fairly obscure video game reference to a Sega Genesis game. When you say Sega Genesis, I think Altered Beast. I don't even think Sonic the Hedgehog first, because I remember when Sega came out, and Altered Beast was the pack-in game, and Sonic hadn't come out yet, and the proof of this great system was this video game, Altered Beast. And what is Altered Beast about? It's about a very strong guy who rises out of the grave. He has to go fight some demon on behalf of Zeus. It's pretty confusing mythology, but the important part is he transforms into animals. He becomes that altered beast. I have a prop to show what that's like. So, if you're just like the Hamburglar here, you alter, you close up your chest, and all of a sudden, you're not the Hamburglar anymore, you're a lion. With all of the attributes and the traits of a lion, all the savagery. So what I think he might be up to is basically playing Altered Beast with his albums. Only for Dolphins really had this island-like feel, had a breezy feel, had a very intelligent feel. It felt like it really was for dolphins, and the dolphin sounds and the ocean sounds gave you a very specific time and place and atmosphere. And this album is the Crocodile album. It has a swampy, jungly, crocodile feel, the aggression of a crocodile, the fearlessness of a crocodile, the toughness of a crocodile, that all comes through. Another prop here, just in case you didn't know, this is the difference between a crocodile and an alligator. The main difference is alligators are basically only in America, and crocodiles are not in America, except in the Everglades. You can see them in the Everglades. But you see crocodiles are generally bigger, and they have the more pointy snout. So I'll put that up there. You're not really going to be able to see it with this super high-def camera I got going here. So when we're trying to figure out what Action Bronson is doing, I think this is a fun and interesting way. And why not? Why not have an album where you incarnate the spirit of an animal, whether it's a dolphin or a crocodile, especially when you're as creative and inventive as Action Bronson is on the album. And usually what I do is I will give an example song and tell you, listen to this example song to know what the album is like and what it's about. But today I'm going to do something different. I don't want you to listen to a song. I want you to basically listen to all of them in the form of his experimental art video, which at the time of filming only has 50,000 views. And it's awesome. It's one of the best. It's like lemonade for underground rap, okay? Like, that's how good this is. I'm going to include a link to it up there. Now, it's going to take you a while. It's going to take you 11 minutes. Please come back and watch my review of the rest of the album. Or don't. It's okay if you don't. But this collage, this visual collage, is also a sound collage from the album. And I think it really gives you the feeling of the atmosphere, the artistic feeling of this weirdness, this menace, this aggressiveness. Almost kind of vaporwavy is this video, kind of 80s weirdness. Quick note, trigger warnings if you don't like seeing people getting eaten by crocodiles, like for real. And trigger warnings if you don't want to see a woman masturbating over a swimsuit in a crocodile floaty. Okay, not safe for work is this video. But there's a unworldly, outwardly, outer spacely quality to this album. I'm at a loss for words. Please tell me, smash the like bucket, subscribe, and tell me what word am I looking for. Otherworldly? That's what I was looking for. Otherworldly sound to the whole album and to this little video. You know, we have this like this weird person watching TV, and it's like a clip from somewhere else. Everything's all matched together. It's all found footage, slightly altered. And we see a zoom in on Queens. A quick word about Queens. Queens, as you know, is one of the most important locations in hip-hop. I'd say it's number 2 after the Bronx. But in terms of like quality hip-hop, I think by square mile, I think Queens might be the best location in the history of hip-hop. I'm going to piss some people off with that, but I think it may be. But the way we think about Queens is we think about the Queensbridge projects, and we think about the Queens Bridge, we think about Nas, we think about Marley Marl, think about LL Cool J, etc. But there's the other part of it, which is Queens is huge. You know, it's rich, it's poor, it's middle class, it's everything. And it is definitely a place where many immigrants move, especially Eastern European immigrants. So him being from Queens is interesting because by being descendant of Albanians, by having that culture, he's actually showing a different side of Queens. He's sort of repping a different side of Queens. So when you watch this video and you see that, just remember that is important. It's not just like, oh, that's the borough he happens to be in. If you understand the sort of immigration patterns in New York and in America, that's where you'd guess. If you had to guess, hey, where would someone from Albania who immigrated in the late 80s, early 90s wind up? My number one guess would be Queens. Oh my God, there's someone mowing the lawn outside. You're just going to have to tell me because I don't have that much time. I have some people coming in soon to do their next interview. So you're going to have to tell me if that ruins the sound or not. So we have in this video all the beautiful sounds. I'm going to describe the album in great detail. Don't worry about that. But just we have like this guy, like some preacher talking about a spiritual crocodile, and then a news reporter talking about a child's remains being found, like very unsettling, very aggressive. Then this National Geographic footage of these like tribesmen who seem to like almost worship in some way or have some interdependent relationship with crocodiles. All these people getting eaten by crocodiles. The repetition of this word turbo, which happens all the time. The album is filled everywhere with crocodile sounds, this very low growl, and the word turbo. I couldn't find which video game it came from, but I guarantee you it comes from a video game, the way that it sounds. Video games are all over this album, this altered beast of an album, where just this turbo keeps on coming back, like weird anthropological footage of like vets, footage of steroid heads, weird processed 80s footage, like some people like making a temple to crocodiles, people cooking crocodiles, people chopping up crocodile scales and snorting them. It's all just so wild, and it's a great, weirdly spiritual, engaging, confusing mess, which really matches the music, which keeps playing underneath. Like the greatest hits from the album keep playing underneath. We see a cut from a Brawny commercial, the paper towels, and Action Bronson's nickname is Brawny. We see a little clip from the movie The Irishman, which Action Bronson was in. And then we have this amazing scene of crocodiles, of a jaguar killing a crocodile. And jaguars can kill crocodiles. And then a crocodile killing a jaguar. All these different, this whole menagerie, all these beasts appearing here. So I can tell you, I can tell you the difference between a crocodile and an alligator. I can't quite tell you the difference between a crocodile and a cocodrillo. I don't quite know why he's going with this name Cocodrillo, but I will tell you that it does help the album, this slight Spanish feel, and the whole atmosphere that you saw, the rough, aggressive, otherworldly atmosphere of the video is in this album. So many jungle sounds, so many sounds that just like go in between songs and just last forever, and you're never upset. You know, it's not like some like a like late 80s rap album with like a 20-minute skit and you just want to skip. It just gives this space. And his voice is just so strong and so clear. And we just keep coming back with more and more references to what a crocodile is and what it means. At its best, musically, this album reminds me, obviously Action Bronson sounds so much like Ghostface Killah that people actually thought he was Ghostface Killah at times, which is as high of a compliment as you can give someone. But at times, the production on this album, and actually, I think I brought a copy of this as another prop. At times, it reminds me of Supreme Clientele, which is my favorite Ghostface Killah album. You can feel free to at me if you think that Iron Man's a better album. I think this is his best album. I think this is one of the top 20 rap albums of all time. And at its best, it has that kind of feeling to it. So I'm going to go through the album, sort of song by song by song. It opens up very unsettlingly with the song Hound Dog, with this broken glass, a crocodile growl, this funky 70s guitar. It's actually, the guitar sample comes from this French like soundtrack producer who also worked with Gainsbourg on Melody Nelson, which is a super important rock album. So there is a sort of 70s experimental prog adjacent European rock vibe on the entire album. And that's a lot of words I just threw at you there. But if you've listened to 70s era European prog adjacent rock, whether we're talking from Yugoslavia or from Spain or from France or from wherever, or from Germany, that's how it kind of feels. Mixed in with all these sounds is this like wild yelling and like xylophones and someone's yelling in the back. And then you think Bronson's going to come on to just calm everything down, but he doesn't. He just amps it up. B-word, I'm just a hound dog, run 100 miles in a downpour with 6 giraffes on my back. That's that thing that Ghostface can do, that very few people can do, that Action Bronson can do. Just have lines like that. Just little lines, absurd lines that make sense, that communicate strength, that communicate greatness, but just you'll have in your head for the rest of your life. Running with 6 giraffes on my back. Imagine a crocodile with 6 giraffes on its back running in a downpour. It's beautiful. Turbo, over and over again, this little sound hit there. Animal sounds slow down and sped up, leads right into the next song, Tongpo, which he produced himself, which is quite interesting, featuring Conway the Machine. Very kind of odd, like Eastern sounding flute, and then roars, and this cool guitar sample. Very simple, kind of laughing in the background. Now he refers to himself as Dr. Baklava. So congratulations on your doctorate, Mr. Bronson. Dr. Bronson, excuse me. Cool kind of funny sounds. It's like, I don't know if it's a clarinet or what kind of instrument it is, but he allows the sample to go sometimes with this very loud lead instrument going further. Just some of these lines, a hard-bottomed crocodile scraping the floor of the Bellagio. Just imagining this image, and then he intentionally mispronounces fellatio as felladio to rhyme. Just funny playing with rhymes. I guess that was Lil Wayne who really perfected the mispronouncing words, but he does it quite well. B-word thought I was Cred Biggio, but I'm not ho. I'm the #1 vato that'll choke a mother effer out with Mr. Sacco. It's funny making reference to an old baseball player like Craig Biggio. Maybe it's because he's from New York that he didn't want to mention Mike Greenwell. That was my favorite baseball player. And his nickname was the Gator because he was from Florida. And what's cool here is he ends his verse with talking about a Fendi casket, which leads directly into Conway the Machine, who jumps on with a Fendi pillow matching. So it's really nice having this back and forth and really understanding that even though Conway is a giant in his own right and who is doing a guest verse, he's not just coming in with just some lines. He's actually playing off of it, which is really nice. Again, referencing not going to school, but not paying attention in school, but smarter than anybody with a master's. A lot of aggression towards people with degrees in higher education here. I don't know. I feel like Cuomo, I see titties, I'm like, let me grab it. Didn't I say I'm not a pervert? I'm just half Italian. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It's like a very of the moment line because it's all about the former governor of our state, New York, who was credibly accused of sexual harassment and who left. But still, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable kind of playing around with sexual assault. A little bit of doo-doo-doos, not too many. More jungle sounds, more kind of bird sounds, which leads directly into Estaciones, produced by Alchemist. Now here's something cool. This sample comes from a Montenegrin, Janko Nilovic. So it's just funny because when I was looking at the credits, because my wife is Yugoslavian and because she likes Action Bronson, and there's this interesting kind of that geographical region connection. That's a very notable Montenegrin name. And if you didn't know, Action Bronson's name, Ariane Arslani, is a very, very Albanian name. And it's a thing that we lose in America that just by people's names, people in that region can tell you where they're from. Anyways, and this right here, so this album is great. Have I said that yet? Review over. Album's great. But part of the reason that's great is the way it's constructed. And we had this very sweet moment, this kind of jazzy, sweet moment, which is really necessary for the atmosphere. And it really reminds you of how well crafted the album is. This voice is a little bit gentler, and his delivery, and now coming down the aisle accompanied by no mother effing buddy, it's the young Bronny stepping to the plate like Barry with the brace on, standing at weight around 248, ain't none of it bacon. Just a great opening line. Again, another baseball line, this time to Barry Bonds, speaking of Lil Wayne, and just coming down the aisle accompanied by nobody. It's like he's marrying himself. He then later makes references to Trans Ams, and I think it's cool that he often talks about cars that are not the cars that we're used to. And it's a waste. It's like rap artists. Like, I understand that there's like 5 cars you can say you have, and that's it. You have to say Lamborghini, Ferrari, or Rolls, or Phantom, or whatever. But you can rhyme with so many other cooler cars, There's so many awesome, cool, very expensive cars, or very cool cars like Trans Ams to go for. Hologram appears here. I've never heard of Hologram, so I'm getting increasingly anxious about how close the lawnmower guy is getting here. Maybe my new setup means you can't even hear it and I look like I'm going crazy. A Hologram doesn't get a featuring line in the title of the song. I guess it's because he's not well known, but he should because he's great. He starts off this line, then he's interrupted by Bronson who jumps in and says, I'm sorry, and then he lets him go and he restarts the verse, and it's a great verse. Oddly misogynist. I eat the pea like a mukbang. Gross. Just super gross. I got a side B word and a main B word, and they both call me husband. And then he just says as an ad-lib, I hate them both. It's like, dude, chill out. I mean, you hate them? You hate both of the women who call you wife? I mean, I understand if you disrespect them or you put them aside or you don't take them seriously, which is sort of standard in hip-hop. But to say you hate them, that's pretty strong. Jaws is another track by Alchemist. Cool kind of crackling vinyl, old 70s sounds. We're sort of back in this Altered Beast phase here. Not the Jaws like a shark, but Jaws like the crocodile. We're thinking about the crocodile. Cool, like vibraphone here, a funky guitar, a great sample. And again, Alchemist does this thing where he at times will just let it ride. He just lets this little solo instrument ride. Opens up, I'm the mother effing crocodile, just I am the crocodile. Oh, that really is the theme of the album. What is Action Bronson's album called Crocodile about? It is about crocodiles. This doesn't really develop as a beat. The next couple songs, like they sort of have one part, but then we get to the song Sub-Zero, which makes me ask the question, has The Alchemist leveled up? Has his production gotten better somehow and again? Like this beat, like I'm trying to describe it. I'm looking at my notes. It's this little loop with like a very nice compressed sounding vintage bass and someone riding the ride cymbal on the drums, and then it like cuts in with a perfectly matched, it must be a part of the same sample with like these funky keyboards, but it's like there's a sample on top of a sample that go together but don't. It's just amazing. And it builds really nicely from the previous beat. I also like hear how he says he doesn't cut his bread with a knife. He rips it with his hands like a man. As someone who studies French and has lived in France, that's what you do with bread. You tear it with your hand and you put it on the table. You don't need to put bread on a plate, on a table. What about the crumbs? You clean up the crumbs at the end. Now, saying like a man is toxic masculine, so I'm not going to be that. But maybe like a Frenchman. He talks again about dragging deer into the swamp. Just very, very into this crocodile. I mean, crocodiles and alligators are terrifying, right? Just because the way they kill you is they grab you and they take you underwater and then they spin you around until you drown and then they eat you. It's terrifying, and he's really into that. I love the way he talks about 4 Rolls Royces disappeared off the lot, 4 Rolls Royces just appeared on the block. A very simple crime rap that I just think is great. And then he ends it with, "You know I voted for Obama." A little pet theory. I think this is a reference to Bismarck's "Nobody Beats the Biz." Because he ends one of his verses on that song with Reagan is the prez, but I voted for Shirley Chisholm, which is Shirley Chisholm was like a 4th or 5th candidate in the 1984 election, and African American woman, and just sort of like a blip in political history. But I think like ending a verse talking about somebody that you voted for, it feels to me like that's what this is. But I don't know. I don't know if Action Bronson rolls with Bismarck. Rest in peace. I don't know if he rolls with Bismarcky, but this is supposed to make sound. Damn it. Now it just looks like I'm... Oh, I guess the sound chip died. I don't know if he rolls with Bismarcky. Let's go Bruins. Okay. So then kind of ends with sort of like anthropological sounds, again, like very atmospheric, and we get to the song Turkish, produced by Derringer, who produces a lot of the music for Griselda. A very Derringer beat. So I like Derringer a lot, but if it's possible to have a cookie cutter Derringer beat, this would be it. I still love it though. I love the sound of the sort of ululation in the back, great bass through. I mean, listening to this like in my car with the bass was just bam, super hard bass, which was great. More about being crocodiles. I smoked the drugs. I smoke enough drugs that I have 4 lungs. No way we need the Jay Blavin meal. So he's talking about how McDonald's had meals named after popular musicians, saying that he doesn't need it. So you thought I just had a Hamburglar transformer in my office, and I was showing on the video just to flex that I have a Hamburglar transformer. It was all going to tie in the whole time. It's always going to tie into this idea of McDonald's and not needing it. Mayhem shows up. He has a cool approach, cool voice. The whole verse is about his options between like women and cars and watches, which is quite nice. And then we have the famous verse where he comes in and talks about out of the grave like an altered beast. He talks about Madden. So many video games here. Why not? Then we get to the song Jaguar, produced by Rock Marciano. Very, very well produced. This really strong soul sample. 'Cause I love you. It opens up with the most European line I've ever heard. Never look at me in the eyes like a gypsy with the roses. First of all, dude, improper nomenclature. Gypsy is actually a racial slur. Like, just in case you didn't know, a lot of people don't know. The preferred term is Roma. Gypsy is considered to be an insult. So don't ever say that like, oh, I'm looking very gypsy today, or you're a gypsy. Gypsy and voodoo are these 2 words which we just use like they're not slurs, but they are. But still, this line is so specific to somebody who definitely has lived in Europe, because there are many Roma women who, if you're in a major city, will carry roses and try to sell you a rose at dinner. And like they just burst into a restaurant, and if you make the mistake of making eye contact with them, they'll come over and bug you and try to get you, buy for the pretty lady, right? Whatever language it is. And it's just an annoying thing, right? I mean, anybody selling roses would be annoying. The fact that it happens to usually be Roma who do it makes it interesting and makes this interesting. He refers to himself as a jaguar, like jumping over a jaguar like a jaguar. And this is where the menagerie really gets complicated, because he's been a crocodile and now he's a jaguar. And hey, listen, have you ever looked up jaguar versus crocodile on YouTube? Oh my God. You saw some of it in Action Bronson's video, but it's really worth watching a jaguar kill a crocodile is amazing. They swim up to the crocodile and they hide behind them, and then they do 2 leaps, and then they put their teeth right into the brain so that it just fritzes out the nervous system of the crocodile and they can't do anything. It is the most savage, seriously, it's the most savage, like, nature stuff you'll ever see. But I love this idea of putting himself as both a jaguar and a crocodile. Because sometimes crocodiles will just straight up eat a jaguar right out the watering hole, right? And then he mixes that all together with this beautiful little detail of his life, of being at the Pathmark, which is a grocery store, buying a matchbox for my kid. So he's actually talking about, like, being a father and being present while also being this jaguar and being, like, all these things mixed up. Compares himself to Aaron Donald as a football player. And then he rhymes, says, I look like a bison. Nah, I look like M. Bison, a character from Street Fighter 2, Turbo Edition. And so it's just so much video games in here. And then we have these pigs squealing at the end. It kind of ties into the beginning. You know, this is a challenging album. It's not an easy listen. It's not like Only for Dolphins, where the background sounds are kind of nice and gentle. This is aggressive. This is like that video that I showed you. Like, I don't like watching people getting eaten by animals, right? Like, I don't like that. It makes me unhappy. And this album has a little bit of that quality to it. Next song is Zambezi, produced by himself, featuring Rock Marciano. So it's this cool thing where Rock produced something for him, and then he rapped on it, and now he's producing something, and now Rock Marciano's rapping on it. Cool kind of funky synthesizer beat, very simple, kind of a plodding doom, 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 doom. Rock Marciano's verse is really strong. I've still never reviewed anything by him. This is the point in my comment section where you tell me that I should be reviewing Rock Marciano. I'll give you some time to type that out. And while you're at it, tell me that I need to review Your Old Droog. Speaking of people from Eastern Europe and all that. Y'all are really pissed at me that I've never reviewed Your Old Droog, and it's not intentional. It was just the timing was never there. But eventually I will review Your Old Droog, so feel free to keep telling me in the comments that I really need to do that. But I really liked Rock Marciano's verse in here. I feel like New Edition, Candy Girl minus the wet Jerry curl, the black Led Zeppelin, my Nazi sled go from 0 to 60 in less than 6 seconds. I like referring to German cars as Nazi sleds, historically accurate. And there's like this cool like killer metal sound. And I mean, Bronson's a really good producer. You know, you can really hear that. This kind of like weird guitar solo comes in, and he just comes in super strong. And here he ends up talking about being like a werewolf. Again, I think this album is as much about Altered Beast, or the themes of Altered Beast, of being a man who can transform into the spirits of other animals, as it is about crocodiles. The next song is 91. 91 like, if I were to make a playlist with songs from this album, I would include 91. Just this beat by Mono and Stereo, never heard of them. Just this weird 70s Motown beat, so throwback, but just so direct. There's no change in the beat, it's just a great beat. And just this crazy savage opening lines from, did I say savage again? That's too many times. I'm 44 years old. I should not be saying the word savage. They're totally lit. No. An Excelsior opening verse. They say Bronson disappeared like AIDS from Magic Johnson's, P word. Dick. Okay. Truth be told, I've been rehearsing for a role, but daddy back. So he's referring to like disappearing because he was an actor, because he was in a Scorsese movie. The Cadillac could fit like 80 Shacks, 11 Baby Macs, 5 Scud missiles. Like the idea of a Cadillac fitting 80 Shacks, like what a great line. In some ways, this reminds me of another large rapper, Big Pun, packing a Mac in the back of the yak. This whole line that he had on his whole thing here. I think this might be in conversation with that. Between Biz Markie and Big Pun and Action Bronson, large fellows. Let the Cocodrillo tongue kiss you. You meet the afterlife with one whistle. You and whoever on with you. He makes reference to eating spezza, which is Albanian like stuffed peppers. My wife makes a very similar thing, that's Serbian stuffed peppers. As Americans, our palates are not prepared for the greatness of stuffed peppers. But dear God, stuffed peppers are so good. You just have to like get into them. So my suggestion is find somebody from that part of the world and ask them to make you stuffed peppers, because there's nothing people from that part, in my experience, people from that part of the world want more than to share their food with you. Makes reference to your B word looking like Forrest Whitaker. Previously, he said that your B word looks like Pauly Shore. So I don't know if it's better. Would you rather your girlfriend look like Pauly Shore or Forrest Whitaker? You can tell me that in the comments. I don't know. I mean, Forrest Whitaker's kind of got soul, you know? But Pauly Shore has very fine features, very developed cheekbones. These are questions I was not expecting. Here we have a return of the turbo sound effect. I sort of wish they either used it more or less, but that's fine. We then end with the song Storm of the Century. Remember how I said I was a little bit disappointed in Derringer's production before? Well, I'm not anymore. This is great. Beautiful atmosphere to end the album. It sounds like a storm. It sounds like a storm in the jungle. There's this weird question where Bronson asks, what do they call a dentist? Do they call him a doctor? No, it's me. So it's like, is he a dentist? Is there going to be like a whole Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer like dentist arc for him? I don't know. This guitar and like Derringer's beat is like these low toms, like dun, 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 wah, wah, dun, 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 wah, dun, 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 wah, dun, 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 wah, wah. Okay. I'm turning into Matthew McConaughey from Wolf of Wall Street. Do 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 do. Wah wah. Come on. Wah, do, do, do. Okay. I need to lose like 60 pounds. But just a great beat and so much atmosphere. I love all these little details he throws in. My favorite starter jacket was the Seminoles. You know, the Florida State University, Florida. Alligators, crocodiles, maybe that's on purpose. Just little details. I got bicep tendonitis from revving the boat, a funny line. And then he has his line, head first, 'cause any other way don't make no sense, like a red Smurf. You think I don't have a Smurf in my office? Schtroumpf, come from Belgium. It's a real name. Funny fact about Smurfs. Smurf is a kind of breakdancing, but when breakdancing was imported into France, there was a confusion, and they didn't know that all breakdancing was not smurfing. So they would refer to all breakdancing as le Smurf, which is even funnier because they didn't necessarily know that that referred to these creatures, because in French they're called les Schtroumpfs. They were changed to Smurf in the English transliteration. So, Smurf. And hip-hop goes way back. But Smurfs are blue, so it makes about as much sense as Red Smurf or confusing James Earl Jones with Fred Durst. There's a level of creativity here that I just really appreciate. Just like if you had to tell me what is the opposite of James Earl Jones, I don't know what I would have come up with. But I couldn't have come up with something better than Fred Durst. And then young Mexico just plays this saxophone line to the end. And what this does, what Derringer does, what Bronson does, is they let it breathe. So they have this beautiful, like, distorted saxophone solo, and then there's just more calm. And then there's more solo that comes back. So much atmosphere. The whole album, this is all atmosphere, comes back a little more turbo. So there's my review of the album. Great album, really enjoyable. I really like it in context with the Dolphin album. I want more Altered Beast. I want him to talk about being a hummingbird. I want him talking about being a woodchuck, a squirrel. Squirrels are my favorite animal. I want an Action Bronson album called like Skrilla Squirrel. And he just talks about, uses the imagery of hiding nuts and climbing up trees. Do you think he could do it? Do you think Action Bronson is good enough to make an album about being a squirrel and it'd be badass and cool? That's you're not watching. If you are watching, challenge. Make an album about being the Skrilla squirrel. Every once in a while, for my Patreons, I just ask them if they want me to give them a specific shout out. So I give them all a shout out on the weekends. But during the week shows, I just ask if they like this. At Large Auteur would like a shout out. He had some trouble with the beginning of this album. Thought it was a little bit too rough. I wonder if his opinions change. Maybe he can tell us in the comments. Tatsu123. And then a super shout out for Chris Marin. I try to encourage the arts. I try to encourage musicians. I try to encourage artists. And if you live in Lubbock, Texas, and I don't even know where Lubbock, Texas is, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it's in the Panhandle. I don't know if it's west, south, east. I've spent a lot of time in Texas, but I've never been to Lubbock. But if you're anywhere near Lubbock, Texas, Louise Hopkins Underwood Center for the Arts, He has some paintings there. I'm going to include a link in the description just to check out his paintings because they're very interesting paintings. And there's a lot of artists out there and they're not getting enough respect or visibility. So go check his stuff out and send me an email. If you go, you send me a picture. Okay, you send me a picture of you in front of the Lubbock Arts Center to my business email, and I will send you a prize, a good prize. Okay. All right. Support the arts. All right. Until next time. It's 10:14. My next. Look at what a mess. I have to let my students in here in less than 1 minute, and I have to clean this all up. So until next time. There's the camera.